Welcome back to Wealthwise, the podcast where clarity meets strategy. There's a quiet financial crisis happening right in our driveways, and most of us don't even see it coming. For the first time in history, the average price of a new car in America is about to cross the $50,000 threshold. Let that sink in for a moment. $50,000. That's why today we are diving deep into a topic that is urgent, uncomfortable, and absolutely essential. We're talking about America's #1 wealth killer, the car in your garage. To help us navigate this, we have the perfect guest. He's a brilliant financial analyst, an educator, and frankly, one of the sharpest minds when it comes to seeing through the noise of consumer finance. Please welcome the fantastic Max Wise. Max, it's so great to have you.
Sarah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're thrilled you could make it. For everyone listening, by the end of this conversation, you will understand 3 critical things. First, why the old rules of car prices and depreciation are completely broken. Second, the invisible debt trap that an astonishing 85% of new car buyers are falling into. And most importantly, you'll walk away with the golden rule to know exactly how much you can truly afford to spend on a car without sabotaging your financial future. So let's jump right in. Max, for generations, we viewed cars as a necessity, a rite of passage, or even a symbol of success. You work hard, you get a nice car. It seems simple, but your data, your analysis, it paints a picture of a colossal financial trap. So my first question is this: why is there such a profound disconnect? Why is this topic so misunderstood, especially right now?
That's the perfect question to start with, Sarah, because the answer is rooted in psychology far more than in spreadsheets. The primary reason for this disconnect is that we as consumers have been conditioned to ask the wrong question. We don't ask, can I afford this $50,000 car? Instead, we ask, can I afford the $750 monthly payment? And the auto industry has masterfully built its entire business model around that single flawed question. It's the most dangerous illusion in personal finance today. You feel like you're in control because the monthly number seems manageable, but you're completely ignoring the total cost of ownership, the interest you'll pay over 6 or 7 years, and the crushing weight of depreciation.
So it's a psychological sleight of hand. They focus our attention on one small number to distract us from the much bigger, scarier one.
Exactly. And here's the inside baseball that most people never hear. Over the last decade, dealerships have fundamentally shifted their profit model. A study from the Iowa Law Review found something fascinating. Dealerships now often make more profit from the financing of the car than from the sale of the car itself. Think about what that means. They have a direct financial incentive for you to take out the biggest loan possible for the longest term possible. They're not just selling you a vehicle, they're selling you debt. And it's a poorly regulated Wild West environment where, as Consumer Reports found, income and employment are only verified in a shocking 4% of loans. They're giving people loans they know they can't afford, simply because the profit from the loan is too good to pass up.
Wow. So the person you think is helping you buy a car is actually incentivized to put you in the worst possible financial position. That's a heavy realization.
It's a complete conflict of interest. And it leads to this staggering case study I often share. If you look at the data, the typical American family today would have to spend between 70 and 80% of their entire annual income just to buy an average-priced new vehicle. Let's put that in perspective. In 1990, that figure was closer to 35–40%. So in one generation, the burden of buying a simple car has doubled. We're in a race where car prices are wildly outpacing our incomes, and the only way the system keeps going is by stretching loan terms to absurd lengths. 6, 7, even 8 years. People are finishing their car payments just in time to roll their negative equity into a brand new loan. It's a cycle of debt.
And it's this very cycle, this combination of psychological traps and predatory systems that forms the core of the problem we need to unpack. It all starts with the mindset we have before we even step foot in a dealership.
That sets the stage perfectly. It's not just about the car, it's about the system built around it. Okay, so let's break that down. You've mentioned mindset, you've mentioned the system. Let's get into the core insights. The first thing I want to tackle is this modern debt trap you just described.
That sets the stage perfectly, Max. It's not just about the car. It's about the entire system built around it. A system that, as you said, is designed to profit from our financial blind spots. Okay, so let's get into the core insights. I want to start by pulling on that thread you just mentioned. You described this as a modern debt trap, a Wild West where dealerships profit more from financing than from the cars themselves. Let's go deeper on that. How specifically is this debt trap more dangerous than we can even imagine?
It's more dangerous because it operates with a level of sophistication and a lack of regulation that would be unthinkable in other major financial decisions. When you apply for a mortgage to buy a house, the process is rigorous. Lenders scrutinize your income, your credit history, your debt-to-income ratio. It's a financial colonoscopy, and for good reason. They want to be sure you can pay back that massive loan. Now, contrast that with an auto loan. U.S. auto loan balances just hit $1.6 trillion. That's the second highest debt category for American households, right after mortgages. Yet the system for approving these loans is shockingly lax. As we touched on, a Consumer Reports investigation found that lenders verified income and employment in just 4% of the loans they examined. 4%.
That is staggering. It's essentially an honor system for a purchase that can cost as much as a down payment on a house.
Precisely, and it's not an accident. It's a feature of the system. This creates a perfect storm where people who are desperate to get into a new car are funneled into high-interest loans they may not be able to afford. A story from Jalopnik a while back found that even buyers with great credit scores were being given loans with interest rates more than double the average. But the most insidious part is the illusion of affordability created by extending the loan term. This is the key mechanism of the trap. In the past, a 4-year loan was standard. Today, the average loan term is nearly 72 months, 6 years, and 8-year loans are becoming common. Let me give you a concrete example. Pre-pandemic, someone might take out a $30,000 loan for 4 years. Their payment would be around $690 a month. Today, to get into a $50,000 vehicle, the dealer says, "Don't worry, we can get your payment to about the same, maybe $720 a month." The buyer thinks, wow, for just $30 more a month, I get a much better car. I can swing that. What they don't see is that the loan is now for 8 years. They will be paying thousands, sometimes tens of thousands more in interest. They'll be in debt for twice as long, and by year 5, their car will have lost half its value. But they'll still have 3 years of payments left. They are hopelessly underwater, owing more on the car than it's worth.
So you're chained to a depreciating asset, and the chains are getting longer and heavier every year.
That's the perfect metaphor. You're trapped. And this isn't a fringe problem. 39% of all buyers with a trade-in are underwater on their existing loan. They roll that negative equity into the new loan, starting their next car purchase already in a financial hole. It's a vicious cycle designed to extract as much wealth as possible.
Which brings us to our first highlight for today. I think you put it best, Max. You think you're buying a car, but you're actually buying debt, and the dealership is selling you that debt, not the car. Okay, so we've established the financing is a minefield, but let's talk about the asset itself, the car. For our entire lives, we've been taught one simple rule. A new car loses thousands in value the second you drive it off the lot. Is that fundamental law of financial physics still true? Has depreciation been broken?
That's a brilliant question, because the answer is a very complicated yes and no. For a brief, bizarre period from roughly 2021 to 2022, the laws of depreciation were in fact broken. They were completely shattered. Due to the perfect storm of pandemic-related factory shutdowns, a global semiconductor shortage, and a flood of stimulus cash, demand massively outstripped supply. Suddenly, used cars weren't depreciating assets, they were appreciating. Data showed that in 2021, used car prices were up 40% year over year. You could literally buy a used Toyota, drive it for a year, put 15,000 miles on it, and sell it for more than you paid. It wasn't uncommon for people to pay thousands over the sticker price just to get a new car from the dealership. It defied all logic.
A world where your car was an investment. That sounds like a dream.
It was a fever dream, and now we're waking up. The crucial message for listeners today is that this era is over. However, the market hasn't just snapped back to normal. The bubble didn't pop. It's deflating in this really strange, uneven way. It has created a market of winners and losers, and you have to know which is which. For instance, look at Tesla. Prices for used Teslas have been in a free fall, dropping double-digit percentages. They're depreciating 70 times faster than a Chevy. This is likely due to a combination of factors. Elon Musk has become a polarizing figure. EV technology is evolving so rapidly that older models seem dated. And many of the early adopters who wanted an EV have already bought one. So if you bought a Tesla at its peak, you've likely lost 50 to 70% of its value in just 24 months. It's brutal.
On the other hand, are there cars that are holding their value surprisingly well?
Absolutely. And this is where the market gets so counterintuitive. While Teslas are plummeting, certain luxury models are soaring. The used BMW 4 Series saw its price increase by nearly 20% year over year. The Porsche 718 is up over 15%. This is driven by limited supply and high demand in that specific luxury segment. So you have this incredibly fragmented market where one car is a financial black hole and another, sitting right next to it in a used car lot, is holding its value like a Swiss watch. Acting on the old, simple rules of depreciation will get you into a lot of trouble today. You have to be surgical and informed.
This really highlights the need for a new framework. The old rules are gone, but a new, more chaotic reality has taken its place, which is a perfect segue to our next highlight. The laws of depreciation were broken, but gravity is slowly returning to the car market. Don't act like it's still 2021.
Max, listening to all this, it feels like walking through a maze blindfolded. You've got debt traps on one side and a chaotic, unpredictable market on the other. It's overwhelming. So for everyone listening right now who might be in the market for a car in the next year, let's make this incredibly practical. What is the actual actionable formula, the playbook to navigate this and not get burned?
This is the most important part of our conversation, because you can absolutely win this game. The key is that the battle is won or lost before you ever set foot in a dealership. The power comes from preparation, and the foundation of that preparation is a simple, powerful rule I urge everyone to memorize: the 24-10 rule.
Okay, 24-10, break that down for us. What does each number mean?
It's a three-part financial guardrail. First, the 20. This means you should make a down payment of at least 20% of the car's purchase price. This does two critical things. One, it creates immediate equity in the car, acting as a crucial buffer against depreciation so you don't instantly go underwater. Two, and more importantly, it's a test for yourself. If you can't save up a 20% down payment, you likely can't afford the long-term costs of the car itself. Next is the 4. This means you finance the car for no more than 4 years. That's 48 months. The industry wants to sell you on 72 or 84-month loans to make the monthly payment look deceptively low. A 4-year term forces discipline. It ensures you pay the car off quickly while it still has significant value, saving you thousands in interest and freeing up your cash flow years sooner.
So a 20% down payment, a 4-year max loan term. What's the 10?
The 10 is the most crucial part. It means your total monthly transportation costs should not exceed 10% of your gross monthly income. And I have to emphasize total. This isn't just the car payment. This includes your car payment, your insurance premium, your estimated fuel costs, and an allowance for maintenance. Let's use a real number. If your household brings in $6,000 a month before taxes, your all-in car budget is $600, period. If the payment, insurance, and gas for the car you want comes to $800, you cannot afford that car. This rule keeps your lifestyle in check and prevents your vehicle from eating your financial future. And there's one more piece to the playbook. Once you've used the 24/10 rule to determine your budget, do not, I repeat, do not get your financing from the dealership. Go to your local credit union or bank and get pre-approved for a loan. You walk into the dealership with that pre-approval letter, and you have effectively become a cash buyer. You've taken away their most profitable weapon. Now, the negotiation is only about the price of the car, not a confusing shell game of monthly payments, interest rates, and loan terms.
That is such a powerful shift in perspective. You're no longer asking them for permission to buy, you're telling them the terms on which you will buy. It puts the power completely back in your hands. This is more than just a tip, it's a strategy. The 24/10 rule isn't just advice, it's a financial firewall that protects your future from the car in your garage. Max, that playbook, the 24/10 rule, is incredibly clear and powerful. It's a framework that cuts through all the noise and the sales tactics. And it makes me wonder, you have such a clear-eyed, almost passionate view of these systems and these numbers. I have to imagine this insight didn't just come from a textbook or a spreadsheet. Was there a personal moment, maybe a mistake or a breakthrough in your own journey that truly cemented this lesson about cars being a potential wealth killer for you?
You're right, Sarah. It definitely wasn't a textbook. It was a lesson I had to pay for, in cash and in stress. And it's a story I don't tell often, but I think it's important here. I was in my early 20s. I had just landed my first real job on Wall Street. I wasn't wealthy by any means, but I had a steady paycheck for the first time in my life. And I felt this immense pressure, mostly from myself, to look the part. Society tells you that success looks a certain way. It has a specific uniform. For me, that uniform included a sleek German sports coupe. It was black, fast, and completely out of my league. But I went to the dealership, full of confidence, and the salesman was a master. He never talked about the $45,000 sticker price. He just kept asking, what monthly payment are you comfortable with? I did some quick mental math, ignored every other expense in my life, and said a number. And like magic, he made it work. Of course, he made it work with a 72-month loan. 6 long years.
You fell right into the trap you just warned us about.
Fell? I swan dived into it. I signed the papers, and for the first 48 hours, I was on top of the world. I remember the smell of the leather, the sound of the engine. It felt like I had arrived. That feeling lasted until the first payment was due, and then the second, and then the third. The turning point came about 6 months in. I was sitting at my small apartment desk, looking at my bank statement. I had my rent, my student loans, and then this giant, immovable block of a car payment. I did the math on how much of that payment was just going to interest, and a cold dread washed over me. I felt a pit in my stomach. That car, which was supposed to be a symbol of my freedom, had become a cage. It was dictating what I could do, where I could afford to live, how much I could save. I was working at a high-paying job, yet I was financially suffocating. I went online and checked the car's market value. It had already lost nearly $10,000 in value. At that moment, I was completely underwater, just like the statistics we talked about. I owed thousands more than it was worth. The feeling wasn't just financial, it was emotional. It was the feeling of being tricked, mostly by myself. I had traded actual, tangible financial progress for the illusion of success.
What did you do?
I sold it. I took a significant loss, which was incredibly painful at the time. I had to drain a huge chunk of my small savings to cover the difference between what I owed the bank and what I could sell it for. I bought a 5-year-old, reliable, boring Honda. I paid for it with a 3-year loan from my credit union, and I paid it off in 2. And the moment I made that last payment, the feeling of freedom was 100 times more powerful than the temporary thrill of that sports car. That experience burned a lesson into my brain. True wealth isn't about what you can show people you own. It's about the freedom of not owing anyone anything. It's about owning your time, your choices, your peace of mind. And that expensive car was costing me all 3. It taught me the real total cost of ownership isn't just about gas and insurance. It's about the opportunities you give up and the stress you take on. That mistake, as painful as it was, became the foundation for how I think about every financial decision today.
Max, thank you for sharing that. It's a powerful reminder that these aren't just numbers on a page. They're real-life decisions with real emotional consequences. Now, I want to pivot and look forward. You've given us the playbook for today's market, but the world is changing fast. Looking ahead at the next 3 to 5 years, if you had to bet on one major shift that will define financial success, particularly related to major purchases like cars, what would it be?
That's a fantastic question. While everyone is focused on flashy tech like AI-driven investing or self-driving cars, I believe the single biggest, most impactful shift will be something far less glamorous: tariffs and the reshoring of supply chains. It sounds boring, but I promise you its impact on the average person's wallet will be enormous. For decades, we've lived in a world of hyper-efficient global supply chains that have kept the prices of complex goods like cars relatively low. That era is ending. Right now, automakers are bracing for potential 25% tariffs on imported vehicles and, crucially, on imported parts. People hear this and think, well, I'll just buy an American-made car. But it's not that simple. There is no such thing as a 100% American-made car. The average vehicle has parts sourced from dozens of countries. A tariff on parts imported from Mexico, Canada, or Asia will raise the cost of a Ford built in Michigan.
So, what does this mean for the person trying to follow the 24-10 rule?
It means the goalposts are about to move, and they're not moving in our favor. Analysts estimate these tariffs could add anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 to the price of the average vehicle. But here's the more profound, long-term effect. We may be witnessing the death of the truly affordable new car. If tariffs and complex logistics make it unprofitable for companies like Honda or Toyota or Ford to produce and sell a simple, reliable sedan for under $25,000, they will simply stop making them. They'll focus exclusively on higher-margin trucks, SUVs, and luxury vehicles. This forces budget-conscious buyers into an older, less reliable used car market, where they'll face higher maintenance costs. It makes the dream of owning a reliable new car that much harder to reach. Your best defense against this future is to become an even more disciplined saver. The 24-10 rule becomes more critical than ever, because the market will punish any deviation from it even more harshly. The window to buy affordable transportation is shrinking, and being prepared for that reality is the ultimate strategic advantage.
The death of the affordable new car. That is a sobering but vital forecast. Max, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation. You've given us so much to think about, from the psychological traps of the monthly payment to the hard-won lessons from your own life and a clear-eyed look at the road ahead. To everyone who tuned in today, I hope this conversation sparked something for you. We've covered a lot, but if you remember just 3 things, let them be these. First, the monthly payment is an illusion. Always look at the total cost. Second, the old rules of the car market are gone. You need a new playbook. And third, that playbook is the 24-10 rule. It is your shield. If you found value in today's episode and this conversation with Max Wise, please do 3 simple things. First, share this with one person in your life who is thinking about buying a car. It could be the most valuable financial gift you give them this year. Second, hit that subscribe or follow button on whatever platform you're using. We have conversations just like this one every single week, designed to make you smarter and wealthier. And finally, let us know your thoughts in the comments or reviews. Have you fallen into this trap? Did the 24-10 rule change your perspective? We read every single one. Max, thank you once again for your time and your wisdom.
The pleasure was all mine, Sarah. Thanks for the great conversation.
And to all of you listening, thank you for investing your time with us. And always remember, the most important vehicle you will ever own isn't the one in your garage. It's the one that drives you toward financial freedom.